totally to pieces. Okay, this is a class at Excellence in Education. Let's do off. We have all kinds of interesting things. You've handed in a whole chapter, and you've handed in and there was last week that a lot of the material we discussed because that you to discuss with you and determine whether in fact they are programs, many meetings south or the well run. Yeah. Okay. That's post error, right? Okay. Post errors are all about.
Put I think of an end statement or didn't mean to put it, so it stops during execution.
It's a matter of boundary conditions.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Right. And when you do that, try to avoid putting together a definition. Yeah. You see what I mean? That's not really a definition. What's a case of? Is what I mean. Yeah. There are better ways to put that. 100 feet of fence, and you want to breach. Do you need? Well, it's either going to be 11 or it's going to be 8, or stretching it between two buildings or something or other. But it's not going to be 10. That's generally the. If you go from 8 on how many things you're counting. A little sojourn off sign. Take a look at our agenda. Make sure all of our tabs are loading properly. Okay, there. Number. Let's look at the new material. I just sent this out this morning. Okay, page because my class. Okay, here we go. This morning. Whether this is worthwhile. I think it's certainly worthwhile. I want to make sure you have enough. Then I'll start actually with here we are. Sophie. Now I believe I talked a little bit about but not all that many people here. Not originally in English, but the I mean, most Scandinavians better English than most Americans do. The fact is, they've learned it probably of English, and they've learned to speak general terms. There are anyway. We're talking about here. And it just for its readability and right now. You can just turn it on and listen to it, and I highly recommend this. I think I've been just listening to it the last week. Just turn it on while you're doing other things and fussing around, and you will absorb it. You don't necessarily have to concentrate on it. It's juvenile fiction, basically. It's a mystery story, but more specifically, it's a history of Western philosophy. Now that's weird. Can you incorporate sort of thumbnail sketches of Western philosophy into a readable mystery story? Well, I don't know if you can or not, but you look at it and see whether he succeeded or not. It's also, I think there's nothing in it that anybody would object to, for the most part. And I say that simply because it's really very even-handed treatment of most of the issues. It's very kind to religion, for one thing, which a lot of Scandinavian things aren't. And also, the one part that people might take exception to is a rather modern and certainly an American predilection to assume that there's something wrong with a teenage girl going off and getting lessons from some philosopher without her parents' knowledge. Now, this is sort of weird, but that's actually what happens. You know, the modern American would look at that and say, oh, that's inappropriate. We're talking pederasty here or something. The fact is that it is neither pederasty nor is it really even regarded as peculiar or unusual by the parents. And in fact, the whole thing is a story written by a father and given to his daughter on her 15th birthday. So it may appear strange from a distance, but the fact is it's perfectly benign. But it does go through so much interesting material. I recommend it. Take a look at it and see what you think. And a few chapters at least, and then let me know. This is the perfect kind of material to multitask with. If you're spending time, I don't know, playing board games, playing chess, playing airsoft, playing whatever you might be doing, as long as it's something that doesn't require auditory input, put something like this on in the background. And it'll just improve your experience of both of them, I think, in a lot of ways. Okay, now that's Sophie's World, which goes from the origins of philosophy all the way through to the modern world. It was written around 1990, so that's about as modern as we get. They talk about computers, but they're talking about a C prompt. So now it inspired me also to suggest this one here, The Western Tradition, by Eugen Weber or Eugen Weber, depending on, I don't know how he pronounced it, so it's hard to tell. He was originally Romanian, and you can tell that in his voice. Just sort of around the corners, you can tell that there's something there. It's hard to tell for certain that it's Romanian, but in the spirit of your stories of Dracula and so forth, one has to assume that he came from that same part of the world. However, he went to Oxford University, and so that's what most of his speech comes from. And his language is absolutely superb. Whether or not he's improvising is hard to tell. Much of the time when he is speaking directly to the camera, he doesn't seem to be on script. And so it's probably very similar to the works of Terry Eagleton. When he's on script or when he's reading, you can't tell the difference because that's the way he speaks. Wonderful for the ear to listen to this. And The Western Tradition is a treatment of Western history from the beginning of civilization up to the present time. But it's not just political history. It's also the art history and the philosophy and the music and the architecture. It's really a wonderful series. The whole series itself is 52 episodes. This is only half of it. the half that happens right now to be posted on YouTube. The rest of it is out online, but it's locked up under the Annenberg CPB project. Anyway, I'd like you to, I think I asked you to listen to at least 2 episodes. You needn't necessarily listen to the first 2 beginnings of civilization. You can jump to, I don't know, the French Revolution or whatever you feel like, but see what you think of it. And I think it would be excellent to fit into our language immersion section, unlike Sophie's World, which I'm not sure is ideal language immersion for reasons that I've previously covered. Okay, now I just also discovered this was the case last year and then it vanished. Somebody has posted about a dozen at least Woodhouse audiobooks. And Woodhouse is one of the greatest wielders of the English language, and these are superbly read. And whether the original is in public domain or not, I'm not sure. Some of his is, that which was written before 1923, and some of these were and some of them aren't. But the audiobooks, I'm afraid, are probably under copyright somewhere or other. And so while they're on YouTube, let's go ahead and watch them. I suggested that one specific one. Listen to it and listen specifically for literary devices he uses. Similes, for example, metaphors. He's just brilliant at those. And he took the metaphor far beyond what anybody else did. You listen to one of his and you say, oh, that's definitely a Woodhouse metaphor, that sort of thing. Or simile. You look like a bereaved tapeworm. I remember that. That's one that pops to mind. Now, exactly what image that's supposed to inspire in your head, I don't know. But indeed, it really has a wonderful impact. All right. We actually watched some of this last week. Did you all get a chance to see it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Let's discuss that a little bit and see what everybody thought of it. Perhaps we should have started there because, of course, he discusses Shakespeare. And I think he makes it so clear why we study Shakespeare. Shakespeare is the epitome of the English language. He is the author of the planet, as Fry puts it. Far more than Tolstoy and Dumas and Dostoevsky and so forth. I mean, he is just amazing in the amount that he gave us in our language. What are your thoughts about this this little video here, episode 5?
I like the Lord of the Rings part the best, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our family really likes Tolkien, so I think everything he mentions about it, something my dad would probably agree with. My dad, he knows a lot about not just Tolkien, but I remember at my Grammy's house, they had a whole book on the relationship between those two,
The
friendship.
Inklings?
Yeah, I think that was the one. I haven't read it yet, but my dad's read it. So
I don't know the name of the book specifically, but the Inklings was the little literary group to which Tolkien and C.S. Lewis and Owen Barfield and one or two other writers belonged. And there they would go and read their newest works to each other. I think that's just such a wonderful concept. And of course, imagine being there as this was developing and coming along. Go ahead.
Yeah. Would it be pretty funny though if one of the authors, he's telling a story about the Lord of the Rings, and then the person would be thinking, "This is a good idea. I think I'll write it before he does."
That would be horrible. Yeah.
Well, in a way that happened.
Yeah,
Tolkien sort of felt that C.S. Lewis took.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say.
If
you look at Narnia, like Luke's, one that instantly comes to mind is on the Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. When they come and hide, they think it's there. They hide behind the tree. That's a lot like how they did it in Lord of the Rings when they were hiding from the Nazgul.
Right. Yeah. No, I think there was some influence there. But
I don't agree with how it was direct copying.
Yeah. Also, it's important to understand that C.S. Lewis was a very different writer
Yeah.
from Tolkien. Tolkien's material was hammered out over decades. C.S. Lewis whacked together Narnia in a matter of weeks, really, or at least in a single book. So he produced it much, much more rapidly, and you can tell it's a read once thing. I'm sorry. I'm sure there are people who would take exception to that utterance, but I regard Narnia as a read once thing. There are parts of it that are perhaps deserving more than that.
J.R. I still like his writing better than C.S. I read both of them. I like Tolkien's writing style. I like it a lot more.
And there really are so many really great thinkers and writers who read Tolkien religiously once a year. And I can't blame them for that. You know who the one that I'm thinking
my
of.
dad said, I think because when it came out, that was the big thing. I think my dad said he ended up reading in a year. He read through the entire series 16 times or something like that. I remember my dad was saying when it came out, because my dad's family is really big. He has a really big family, so they would all be arguing over who gets to read it first. When the book first came out, they would grab like 2 copies, but there were, I think, 5 of them who read it. So they would all argue about who gets to read. They had to create a schedule saying, okay, I can read Lord of the Rings from this time to this time, then so forth. They would pass the book on.
Right. The major disadvantages of physical copies. Of course, you realize that it's all out there. You can whack it into an EPUB format or anything you want to now. It is still under copyright, but anything that's that popular, somebody somewhere has put it up, and so it's having to trade books around is. I'm so glad to see all of you have your Lord of the Rings books in front of you. This is wonderful, and this is fine. But we do want to be able to project them on screen. We do want to be able to read them and analyze them in greater depth, which really does require a machine-readable version. How many of you are familiar with, I think it's Foster's A Guide to Middle-earth?
I've heard of it, but I've never read it.
Sounds familiar.
Have you?
Sounds really familiar.
Well, it's a concordance to Tolkien. What is a concordance?
That's where they list out every word, right? They list out every word and where it came up.
Exactly. And so where would you find a concordance? What have concordances been used for in the past?
Indexes.
Well, yes.
Dictionary.
Specific works.
They've been used for the Bible.
Right. The Bible and Shakespeare. Okay. Those are the 2 works for which you will find a concordance. If you want to find where It says we're still broadcasting.
Oh.
It looks like we're still going.
Yay.
Okay. For those who might be following online, we had an internet outage. Okay, and we may be back, we may not. In which case you can't hear me anyway.
The screen is not shared on the.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
probably
right.
have to redo it.
Let's do that. Let's do that. Okay, let's hope that this continues for a while. All right. While we have the chance here, let's just take a look at first item on the menu, on the agenda anyway. And here we have another chapter of Kyle's futuristic dystopia. And it's beautifully written. I think what you're doing here is very nice. There's so little needs, a couple of points here and there, and I put in some.
One of my main questions is, what's the SI?
Oh, split infinitive. It's
Oh, what's
no, a
that?
split infinitive. You all know what I mean by that, right?
No.
Oh, to boldly go where no man has gone before. To take the to and the verb and put something in between them. To boldly go, for example. Is a
Okay.
split
All right. I
infinitive.
see.
It's a non-error. A lot of people have looked at these and decided they are errors, and more modern people have looked at them and say that that's silly. It's not really an error. I just point it out so that you're aware of it. And in general, I think they're to be avoided, not because they're an error, but because there are a large number of people out there who think that they're an error. And some of them may be looking at your papers. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So
If you want to get a good grade on it, just don't use it.
nobody is ever going to take points off for not splitting an infinitive.
Yeah.
You see my point?
Yeah. I see.
Yeah.
So instead of write something like Ryan began further examining, instead of
Right.
to further.
To
I see.
further examine.
Okay.
Yeah, to examine further. Almost always there's an easier way to do it. Not always, not always. And sometimes split infinitive is the best solution to awkward situations. Okay. The weather was hot and the vibrant sun. I'm not exactly sure what you wanted to say about the sun, but I'm
think I
not
meant
sure
vivid.
vibrant really means anything to
I
me.
think I
when
meant
describing
vivid.
things. I'm sorry?
I think I just meant vivid or scorching or
Oh,
something.
okay. Okay.
It's probably vivid, but a lot of times I think one thing and then I type the other and I don't even notice it.
Right, right. You just watch the sun up there
Same
vibrating.
with
Speaking of vibrating, I like this one. The light from the flashlight quivering in unison with Gracie's trembling hands. That was delightful. That speaking of light vibrating, very nicely done.
the other one. I think was with it says the russetly. I say
Yes.
russetly. I meant russet, and I'm pretty sure I fixed that. I must have accidentally pressed Control Z or something because when I saw that at the bottom, I said, "Wait, russetly." I'm pretty sure I deleted that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Russet, of course, is a nice
Yeah.
adjectival color, but making it into an adverb, I'm not sure. But the fact is, you can take any noun and make it into an adjective. And so a lot of things can be done that way. Can you take any noun and make it into a verb? People object to
Actioning,
that.
like
to
you're right,
action,
to
exactly.
actioning. You only think it's weird
Yeah,
because you have
but
hurt.
stationing and
Yeah.
positioning have all been used for years. Why not action? Yeah. And so, okay, this is an important one, however. Breach normally takes a direct object. What you had originally here was to breach through the opposing window, which I don't think works very well. But to breach the opposing window or to makes more sense because it takes a direct object. This is a matter of collocation, and the solution again is to in quotes and see how many people. You probably find that other people have breached through things in the past. And it may even be a large enough number to justify that usage. Blood loss, I just thought I'd throw exsanguination at you in case you wanted to use that. Not a good word. His perspired, quivering hands. Yeah, perspired doesn't work there. I mean, sweaty is what you're saying, I
Yeah.
think. But I think there's probably a better way to say that. But I mean, there's so little here that needs to be corrected. Let's see. Countless times had it been employed, and countless times had he succumbed to its persuasive abilities. That's nice. That's very nice. Works very well. And russet tinted sky works fine. Very nice. Okay. How many more chapters are there in this?
I planned 27, so I doubt I'd be able to get them all in before the end of this class.
Very good. Very good. I did 2 chapters yesterday. Okay, Connor.
Yeah, this one right here. Oh, is this the one where, because I uploaded it, but you have to export it before you can even put it on this website. I have to export it through a program, but that program does not have spell checking. So I usually like to export it just to see if I accidentally typed something in, because I always will accidentally type in one letter before accidentally switch them out. So I usually load it into there to revise all of them. Then I would save that as a new file. I accidentally spaced on one of the files, so it created 2 different files. And when I put it on here, I used the older one without the revision.
Okay.
So then,
did I manage to address your questions? However, I'm not sure what I was looking at, but I went to the one that said fixed and started there.
Yeah,
and then I realized you had it in here twice.
I put the second one was the revised.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure I addressed specifically the revised version. I don't really like the PRE tag because of this. If I stick stuff in, I want it to wrap, and it's not wrapping.
Next I'll try to see if I can change the text. I'm not sure you can do that in the program, but I'll try to export it into another program to fix it.
Right. Well, of course, you do know that you can view the HTML.
I was going to ask you the tag you said to delete. Which tag is that? PRE. Okay.
Yeah.
I meant to do that with my last submission.
Yeah.
See, I couldn't find it. I forgot which.
Yeah,
tag
I tried to do it, but I didn't delete the right one. The PRE. I tried. That's why the one where I fixed the other one, I tried to get rid of. I didn't put the right tag in, and that's why it all looked like just a bunch of massive words everywhere.
Let's pop in here and I'll just show you how that works. Okay, now here we're editing it, and here we are down here. Here's the symbol for popping in and looking at the code. Now this code is pretty awful because I mean it's generated by a machine. And you'll notice it's PREing all over the place.
Yeah.
But if you do a search and replace, just take out all the PREs and /PREs, it may well work. I'd like to see you experiment with that. And see
I'll try it. I'll try it when I get home.
All right, this is absolutely terrible.
Yeah, man. I just
There's
pasted
no spacing.
so how I do it is I export it as it doesn't work as exporting as a PDF. So I said, okay, the one that works is formatted text.
Yeah.
So then that one you just click it and it loads it up, and says this is generated with Trelby, and then it's just copy.
What PRE stands for pre-formatted. And what it means is it's not going to wrap for you. It's going to expect you to define the ends of the lines with BR tags and so forth. Now, your HTML, you can go in and fuss with this if you feel like it. Probably one of the easiest ways to handle this sort of thing is to take it in this format and pop it into an idiot editor. In other words, something that just edits ASCII and nothing else, and then cut and paste out of that. And that will take out all of the internal formatting and junk and make it fairly readable.
Actually, I think I wrote one of those before. Just a very simple text editor.
Yeah, because this one, it does, because it reads through, I guess that's what it is, the BRE. It doesn't, it actually looks great when I first put it in, but then once I click submit, where Moodle goes in and it checks all the HTML code, that's when, while it posts it up, it spots all the BREs, because it doesn't, when I'm editing it, I stick it in there, it looks completely normal. But then when I hit submit, post the work, it ends up like that.
Moodle does a lot of stuff
Yeah,
to
the
things.
screenplay, for one thing, it should be in the, it's not, screenplays never on the left centered. They're always justified in each way. See, the counter should be in the middle of the screen.
Let's not get too much into formatting here. We're going to avoid it. It's unimportant except for trying to solve it to make it readable. The one part I wanted to really make clear, in fact, I searched all over in my book to see, I think I treat this in the book, but I wasn't able to find it. And that is the redundancy of the preposition in phrasal verbs. Now here, for example, we've got to suffer from or suffer of. But the problem is we can't suffer from both, if this makes sense. Take a look at it here. When you say, I must regret that an attack of gout, from which I am a constant sufferer of. Do you see how that's such a horribly egregious problem?
Is the from which
I'm
sufferer of.
I'm a constant sufferer of. We've
Would
got
you just
both
delete
from
the of?
and of.
Would you just delete the of to say?
I would delete either
sufferer?
one of them. The thing is that if they could have both been ofs, of which I'm a constant sufferer of, and then you would understand more clearly why it's horrible.
Do you
understand the problem?
This one, I don't know, but I took this one from the book, but I think I reduced it down.
Wondering.
Yeah, it's from the book, but I think I reduced it down a little bit, and that could have been, I might have cut something out.
Let's do a search and find the original there, because somehow you probably inserted the error. If you didn't, it would be nice to know if Stoker actually did something.
I think it might be, yeah. It's in, I know this is in chapter 2.
Did you all see where the problem arises there?
Yeah.
And that's something one does find from time to time when one is putting more complex sentences together. I'm trying to construct one that would exemplify what we're talking about, of which one has thought, or of which one thinks a great deal of. You see, there's the problem. You never want to do that. Of which one thinks a great deal, which one thinks a great deal of, but never put the of on both places. And so we have to be careful with that. I was wondering whether that might have come from the original, and so I wasn't sure, but still. Okay, any questions at all about this? Let's see what.
I think there was one more.
I think there are just a few little things in here that I mentioned. That was one that leapt out at me.
Oh, there's only one more you said, duplicates. You talking about the library books. Then the next sentence I said books. Vast collection of books, and then I said the collection of books. In the next
okay.
sentence. Yeah.
Here we are.
Yeah.
Where you've got the collection of books, and then admiring the collection of books. You don't need them of books anymore. In fact, I'm not sure you need collection. You could say the array or the repository. Or you see what I mean?
Admiring them.
Admiring them. Yes, indeed. That would. Okay. Now, the rest of you folks have looked at this. Do you have any comments? Okay. Now, Nathan, have I missed going over any of yours? Did you hand anything in that we were supposed to?
No.
Okay, so I've addressed all of yours.
Yeah.
Do you have any difficulty getting something up and going? Can I help with suggestions or?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, let's do a little bit of brainstorming on what kind of things you folks would like to write. I don't like to dictate what you'd like to write, but what I do find myself doing is asking you please to shift once you have established a certain amount of expertise in one particular channel, like futuristic dystopias or something like that. Let's see if we can switch over to writing something instructional, writing something persuasive, writing something with a little bit of research and practice in that mode as well, having worked with one. Let's go on to the other. The fact is, Writing is the same. If you write well, it doesn't really much matter what form you've decided to write in, but it's good practice to be able to apply that that facility, that eloquence to different formats if you can, just for the practice of it. Now, would you like to be working on fiction, or would you prefer to be explaining to people how to build a rabbit hutch? Or
I think I need to do persuasive.
Persuasive.
Yeah.
Let's discuss perhaps some persuasive essays and perhaps even some debates that we could engage in. I've given you a number of different things to look at and think about. Do any of them inspire when it comes to persuasion?
I was going to. I didn't have time to research into it enough this week. I was going to write a paper on whether NASA should be funded by the government or not. Because NASA fascinates me, so I started looking into that, finding all the data, but I didn't have enough time to gather.
That is a very interesting idea because it's very hard in a way. Let's look at some of the ramifications of that. What is NASA? Does it deserve government support? When we have people suffering and dying, and we've got major problems of different sorts in the world when it comes to sustainability and so forth, should we really be throwing money into exploring outer space? That's one side of the issue. The other one is, if we look historically back upon our age and ask, and what did they accomplish?
Yeah,
They picked up some rocks.
Yeah, when I looked, there's this website called debate.org, and they had the same question on there, and there they would ask you yes or no. So on the left side you would have yes, and the right side you would have no, and then people would write a few paragraphs and tell them why they think that. And there are three people who would respond to it. There'd be people who would give facts for the yes side. There are people who give facts for the no side. Then there are the people who say, yes, we need to fund NASA because if we don't explore space, we are doomed because an asteroid will hit the Earth. And if we didn't fund NASA, they wouldn't be able to stop the meteor. So then they say, that's why we need to fund NASA.
Actually, that's another very good argument. And I say it's a very good argument simply because I tend to take Stephen Hawking seriously. Yeah. And that's exactly what he says.
I've read a couple, well, I've tried to read a couple of his books.
Yeah,
have you read Brief History of Time?
I actually have it right now.
It is a page turner. It is fascinating, beginning to end. And it's all online in audiobook form. Would you like me to put that up in the classroom? Because again, this is an ideal thing to put in the background when you're doing the dishes or washing the dog or whatever it is you're doing. I mean, that's an ideal way to take maximum advantage of your time. Yeah. And believe me, that his Brief History of Time, and what a title. Brief History of Time is very readable. I recommend it. He's written several others. They are so popular that as soon as somebody takes it down, somebody else is going to stick it up there. It's going to be out there. So let me link to that. If I don't remember, let's make sure to do that.
Yeah, actually, I read about NASA was discussing how they would move an asteroid. So they would fly up to it, and then what they're going to basically do is attach a bunch of thrusters to it, so that way when it comes in, they can move the thrusters and adjust the course to avoid the Earth. Or at least that's the proposed way of doing it. And what was very interesting is I learned a lot of rocket science through this. There's this game I had. It's where you can build a spaceship. You can do whatever you want. Before I played that game, I never knew how they did all the mechanics behind how a rocket actually worked. But in there, it's also where I discovered it. They worked with NASA when they created the game. So they said, okay, here, can you give us all the, so they had their scientists come in and implement and program the formulas into the game. And they even added in a little asteroid redirection mission. So that's where I learned, it's like, oh, okay, so that's what they're going to try to do.
It's nice. That's the concept of the physics involved there. I mean, I remember that this is long before you all were born. The Atari game Asteroids.
Yeah, I know
You've
that
got
game.
all these
Yeah.
asteroids up
They come
there.
in and you spin around.
But they have the ship,
velocity.
the
Yeah.
velocity of the ship and its maneuverability and its inertia were all calculated. It was all two-dimensional, of course, but still, it was worth understanding how complex it is to try to maneuver something like that.
There's another game just like that. It's called Lunar Landing, I think.
Uh-huh.
It's another
Lunar
one
lander.
entirely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and you would just have a ship, and it would be trying to land, I think, on the moon.
Yeah.
And the velocity just keeps going, building and building, and you have to thrust it. And you have to keep adding the thrust, and then you send your ship going upwards, and then it starts dropping again. And you have to get it. You have to hit the ground at such a small amount of velocity,
Right.
Otherwise it'll break.
It was actually a fun game because then you think you're doing good. You come this way and you say, "Oh no, this way, move this way," and then you have to keep doing it.
Now, do you understand why it's not a fun game?
Oh, because back then you had to insert in tokens.
Yeah.
But nowadays you could just stick in the amount of fuel.
That's not what I'm talking
I
about.
was just saying, 'cause it's very.
We should bring that up, but I don't intend to take the time right now. But look up the word fun in the free dictionary and look at the usage note. It should not be used as an adjective. It's generally regarded as inappropriate to say it was a fun time, it was a fun game. The game was fun, noun.
Oh, okay, I
you
see.
what I
See, yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt you with things like
It's fine.
that. Okay, now are there some other topics that might be worthy of debate? Does anything specific occur to you? We have a number of those up in the big site, debate topics. Yes.
Should the government provide medical care?
Okay, it's an interesting point. Should the government provide medical care? It's important here that the way the information on that be looked at from all directions and not just the way it's been spun in this country. There are countries in which it's done fairly well. We look at Canada, we look at Sweden, we look at many parts of the world. Their ideal medical system may not be quite on the technological level of ours, but on the other hand, the general accessibility is far better. Is that better or not? But we should do research to see what it's like in other countries. And
For non-elective
yeah.
surgery, if you want to have elective surgery, they come here. The
Yeah.
waiting list is so long, even for a heart transplant.
Yeah.
It's not all the perfect way it sounds like.
And in many cases, there is private industry, even in countries where they have a national health service. And those private industries, they're the ones that the people who can afford it go to instead.
Yeah.
Concierge doctor, is what they call it.
Mm-hmm. Anyway,
That'd be an
some
interesting debate.
good research on that might yield a good one. Has anybody got another debate topic that would be worthwhile? You got any suggestions?
Oh, yeah, this affects homeschoolers. Mandatory immunizations.
Mandatory.
Oh,
what?
Immunization.
Immunizations.
Very good point.
That would be an exciting topic to investigate.
And there's the Wagnerian summons. Okay. Yeah, it's an interesting point. I just came across that. Was asked a few days ago of whether my daughter have you had all your shots? I haven't had any. So yes, that's a question. But again,
Yeah,
we want to make
that's a big
sure
one up
to.
for debate right now.
Yeah.
The
The
debate on the
immunizations.
immunizations would be, you have to center on the rights of the individual versus the welfare of the public.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's where it comes. Yeah. Because do you want to have people say, no, I don't want to get any? Because if you force them to, that takes away the free rights of people. But if you, let's say you don't force people and nobody takes it, then when something comes in, it could do massive damage. So then you have to.
But then you have to worry about the slippery slope. Once they can have the government tell you to take and be immunized, and what's to say that they don't force him or me to take blood pressure medication, diabetes medication,
Mhm.
or other things. And they're going to get more and more deeply involved in your health care. And that takes away the more important thing,
Freedom.
the God-given and the constitutional given thing about freedom.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
No, those are very good, very interesting points
Yeah.
too. because of course they're talking about the immunization of the populace has arguments in favor of it, which don't necessarily apply
If you
to other
think about
things.
it, though, the argument that it's for other people's welfare doesn't really hold water, because if you're worried about your own safety, then you take the immunization,
Yeah.
and then you wouldn't have the issue if someone else gets it.
Well, some of
But
Whereas if you don't want to take it, or
then
some people
if you
can't
get
do
sick,
all that.
that's your fault.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point.
Right with it. That'd be great.
yeah, okay, I think that's a really nice one. That's a really nice one. And the question is, if they really get into it to any great depth and can demand things that you be taking, maybe mind-altering fringes of psychology might be inserted into that too. You've got to think of all the places it might end up going.
Take the libertarian approach.
Yeah.
Don't trust government. Think it's okay.
That's what I'm learning. Don't trust anything government does.
Okay. You know what?
Oh no,
Two.
audiobook ends at book 1.
Right. Has anybody looked around for the audiobook for the second half? Oh, I think it is on my page, though. If you look there, you will see that there are links to it. Okay. So here we have many meetings. Okay. Have we found enough interesting material for you to look at and think about?
A little bit. I haven't gotten a lot of time or enough time to read as much as I would have liked.
Everybody has difficulty with time, I understand. We don't have time to learn. We're too busy studying. And so maybe one has to adjust things a little bit and just figure out, do what you enjoy doing. The fact is that whatever it is, it's probably going to end up teaching you more if you enjoy it than if you're just trying to slog through it, especially if you're just trying to fill time. If anybody ever tells you, you better sit down and read for 2 hours, you stop and think about that and what it really means.
Yeah, I remember when I was little, my mom wanted me to read this book. It was Treasure Island, but when I was little and I didn't really understand it. But the problem was my mom would say, sit down and go read it, read it for 1 hour. So I would read it for 1 hour, but I never really appreciated it at that time.
Right.
Because, when I was little, I thought, oh, the time goes on, I would just constantly look at the clock,
I've said this before, of course, and I find myself repeating myself, and eventually I'll see eyes rolling and I hit these subjects again. But the fact is, for example, in the story I'm putting together, I've got these kids playing games, and in the background they're listening to Treasure Island. Just put it on as an audiobook when you're
That's what I
tiling
did
the
with
bathroom floor or something. You see what I mean?
yeah, that's what I did with
Plant Word.
No.
The dongle of
Dongle Daniel
Right.
Fusus. While I was doing work and I was on my computer, I said, oh, you know what? I'm not listening to anything. I might as well listen to it while I'm on the computer doing some research. That way I was listening to it and I enjoyed it.
Right. And there's another big advantage to that. You can be homeschooling. You can be doing whatever you feel like doing. As long as you put something like that on, it justifies your time. You see what I mean? You can say, I'm actually doing homeschooling here while I'm playing the card game.
That's why there's this one game I played where it was kind of a detective game. So you have to find out, everyone plays, and everyone has to try to find out who the killer is. But once you're out of the game, you have to wait like 8 or so minutes before the next round starts before you can play. So that makes it the perfect, and there's not sound that you just turn on. You don't have to have any music on, any sound. So that way, when I'm done, I was like, okay, I'll just sit back and listen to it while I'm waiting. Because a lot of those games, they have wait time.
Right.
Or when I'm playing with friends, there's like a turn-based kind of chess game. So while I'm waiting for them to make their move, I'll just be listening to it,
Right.
It helps out a lot.
I think it's an ideal way to go. And I believe do you all have the capability to download something from YouTube and make an MP3 out of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know to do that.
Okay, good.
I don't download the actual video, but I have I think they're called benchmarking software. It records whatever you're doing on screen.
Oh,
My one's
okay.
called Bandicam. It's just a little window. You can size it to whatever you want. It takes the video of whatever's within those boundaries. So I can make a video and show it to someone. Oh, look, I just did something. I can take a picture.
Is that
of it.
commercial or is that open source?
No, it's free. It's free.
I think it's
commercial, but they give you a free trial. The trial allows you to go up to 10 minutes
Right.
of recording.
Right.
But how you have to get over it is you can, if you know you're right within the 10-minute limit, just click really fast, turn it off, and hit record again. You might hear like a slight little, delay.
Bandicam, is that what you?
Yeah, BANDI cam.
And then they also have a Screencast-O-Matic, which is same thing, which is just 15-minute trial length. But it's the same thing.
Yeah,
But
there's
Bandicam
also they got
can
free ones
flip the
too,
audio.
but the free one I
Oh,
download
yeah.
doesn't work on my computer for some reason.
Yeah.
There are a lot of free ones.
We should have a special online discussion area for this rather than taking class time for it, because that way we could trade the links around and everything. But I think it's important that you manage to put things in MP3 form, so you can just stick it in your ear when you're running or whatever it is you might want to be doing. Okay, I have asked, well, let's go back to our agenda quickly here. And let's see, we talked a little bit about that one. And specifically, he talks about Shakespeare and Tolkien. He also talks about James Joyce's Ulysses, which I'm going to have to skip just because it tends to cover material that some parents object to. Though if you want to look at it and read it on your own, by all means. He talks a little bit about Tennyson. And of course, we have been studying some of Tennyson, and there is more that's of value there. But specifically, he goes on to talk about Woodhouse. And so I chose Woodhouse to suggest to you, and let's take a look at that and see. And Orwell. Orwell is important for his social significance, but not for the language, I'm afraid.
Mm-hmm.
Though you might want to read Christopher Hitchens on Orwell. He is a biographer of Orwell, and a superb writer, or was a superb writer. And so that's a possibility. And he's done many interviews and speeches on Orwell. He wrote a book called Why Orwell Matters. So if you're interested in Orwell and you really want language, that's probably a good place to go. Okay, what about this one here? We did talk about that briefly last week. Did you understand what the points he was making?
Yeah.
Okay, good. It's so easy to reduce people down to something less than personhood in order to mistreat them. And of course, that's what was done under those circumstances. It has been throughout history, throughout the keeping of slaves, throughout the suppression of different cultures, including the Scots and the Irish, for example, the Aborigines in Australia, the Bushmen of the Kalahari. There are all kinds of ways in which people have been reduced to something that's less than human in order to mistreat them and exploit them. Okay, so now we're looking at Tolkien, and I asked you all if you would please choose something that you would like to recite from this reading selection. Everybody's grabbing their books. I don't see any. Oh, I do see some bookmarks.
Oh, I read chapter to chapter if I can. I usually just memorize the page.
Nathan, have you got something handy there?
No.
No? Gabriel?
Let me find it.
I was gonna read Sam's poem that he made up about the trolls.
Oh, okay. That was from previous chapters.
Oh yeah, Fight to the Fort. Sorry. Oh, you're actually. Yeah, I probably should.
I think that's probably a knife in the dark, isn't it?
No, it's Flight to the Ford.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
I like that poem.
Okay. Nice one.
Okay. Troll sat alone on his seat of stone, and munched and mumbled the bare old bone. For many a year he had gnawed it near, for meat was hard to come by. Done by, gone by. In a cave in the hills he dwelt alone, and meat was hard to come by. Up came Tom with his big boots on. Said he to the troll, "Pray, what is yon? For it looks like the shin of my Uncle Tim, as should be a lion in graveyard. Cave yard, pave yard. This many a year has Tim been gone, and I thought he were lying in graveyard." "My lad," said Troll, "this bone I stole, but what he bones that lie in a hole? Thine uncle was dead as a lump of lead, afore I found this shin bone. Tin bone, thin bone. He spare a share for a poor old troll, for he don't need his shin bone." Said Tom, "I don't see why the likes of thee, without axe and leave, should go making free with the shank or the shin o' my father's kin. So hand the old bone over. Rover, trover, though dead he be, it belongs to he. So hand the old bone over." "For a couple of pins," said Troll, and grins, "I'll eat thee too, and gnaw thy shins. A bit of fresh meat will go down sweet. I'll try my teeth on thee now. He now, see now, I'm tired of gnawing old bones and skins. I've a mud to dine on thee now." But just as he thought his dinner was caught, he found his hands had hold of naught. Before he could mind, Tom slipped behind and gave him the boot to larn him. Warn him, darn him, a bump of the boat on the sea, Tom thought, would be the way to larn him. But harder than stone is the flesh and bone of a troll that sits in the hills alone. As well such a boot to the mountain's root, for the seed of a troll don't feel it. Peel it, heel it, old Troll laughed when he heard Tom groan. He knew his toes could feel it. Tom's leg is game since home he came, and his bootless foot is lasting lame. But Troll don't care, and he's still there, with the bone he boned from his owner. Donor, boner, Troll's old seed is still the same, and the bone he boned from its owner.
Very good, very good. Now you can see some dialects just creeping through there.
Like the larn is learn.
Right, right. And I wish I knew more about the very specific regional dialects, but indeed he's chosen something fairly far from the standard RP English. And there are aspects there that I see in common with Yorkshire, but it wasn't Yorkshire that he would have based it on.
Also, they'll say hello with a
Hello,
U.
yeah.
For Hobbit to go hello.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Very, very sort of Hugh Laurie. Hello.
Yeah.
Okay. Very nice. And can't help looking at that and saying, that really should be sung. That really should have music put to it. There's a very, very clear that refrain at the end of each of those stanzas needs some sort of recognizable repeating figure.
Perhaps it was. Like I know that in Lord of the Rings, what they did is they take the songs for the main one. I think with just concerning hobbits, they used the singing of "The Road Goes Ever On."
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So you never know. Maybe they in some other orchestra that they had, or some other symphony that they made, they used that as their main melody where they based it from.
They have been set many times by many different people.
And they pick different poems too.
Yeah, and some of them are very good. Some of them are good. There was one collection done by a group called Starlight Jewel, which was really very delightful. I'll find it if you'd like. Okay, now we are off onto many meetings. What happens in here? You all read this?
Yeah. The beginning. Let's see. The beginning. It starts up with Frodo waking up after the flight to the Ford. This is when once he again wakes up from passing out at the river of. It's the Ford of
Bruin.
Ford. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Yes. Actually, I wanted to read the
okay.
beginning paragraph. I
Very good.
actually love the way this one began. Frodo woke and found himself lying in bed. At first, he thought that he had slept late after a long, unpleasant dream that still hovered on the edge of memory. or perhaps he had been ill. But the ceiling looked strange. It was flat, and it had dark beams richly carved. He lay a little while longer, looking at patches of sunlight on the wall, and listening to the sound of a waterfall. "Where am I, and what is the time?" he said aloud to the ceiling. "In the house of Elrond, and it is 10 o'clock in the morning," said a voice. "It is the morning of October the 24th, if you want to know." "Gandalf!" cried Frodo, sitting up. There was the old wizard sitting in a chair by the open window. "Yes," he said, "I am here, and you are lucky to be here, too, after all the absurd things you have done since you left home." Just like I love the beginning of that one.
Very good, very good.
It would have been
Frodo,
funny if he goes, "Where am I? What is the time?" He said aloud to the ceiling. It would have been funny if he said, "In the house of Elrond," and Tolkien said responded the ceiling, or at least he thought it was the ceiling, but it was the voice of someone familiar,
right.
That would, I kind of like the way they did that. It's the same.
Excellent. I'm here, and you are lucky to be here too, after all the absurd things you've done since you left home. Frodo lay down again. He felt too comfortable and too peaceful to argue, and in case he did not think he would get better. And in any case, he did not think he would get the better of the argument. He was fully awake now, and the memory of his journey was returning. The disastrous shortcut through the old forest, the accident of the prancing pony, his madness in putting the ring on in the dell under Weathertop. While he was thinking of all these things and trying in vain to bring his memory down to his arriving in Rivendell, there was a long silence, broken only by the soft puffs of Gandalf's pipe as he blew white smoke rings out of the window. Nicely done. Nicely done.
I have to get going.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Have we covered everything you need?
Yes.
Okay. And so you'll be able to write a little something, write anything that we can play around with. It'll give me an idea what to suggest that you write in the future.
Okay.
You see my point?
Yes. I will.
Very good. Okay. And let's see. Have a good week then, Gabriel.
You too.
Do you have everything you need for writing something for next time?
Yeah.
Okay. And you've got some ideas for that. Excellent. Okay. We have time, I believe. We have quite a good deal of time here, the which we can use any way we like. Have you noticed that in Shakespearean language, he actually puts a definite article in front of the relative pronoun which? The which we can use. You don't find that much in modern language, but indeed there. This, of course, is a beautiful chapter, and it's rather fascinating. We see things explained and tied together. We learn that the Black Riders are the ring wraiths, the 9 servants of the Lord of the Rings. And then it's all recounted how they were saved by Strider and Glorfindel. And of course, in the original, it's Glorfindel, and in the movie, it's Arwen. And that made so little sense. I suppose someone must have looked at it and said, we need a strong female character.
Yeah.
And then when she sneaks up on Strider, no, Strider's not going to have anybody sneak up on him. That just does not make any sense if you read the story. But
quick question. What was the gap between this book and The Two Towers? Or Sarah?
There isn't really a gap, but things go in very different directions. At the end of this one, of course, we have some fascinating things taking place, one of which is Frodo goes up to the top of a mountain, looks east at Mordor, and puts the ring on. And he senses the Sauron, and Sauron sees him. And so he gets this concept of what's going on there and where he's going, and he realizes what he's going to have to do. And he decides to go off on his own. But Sam ends up being a little bit too smart for him and gets ahead of him there. But still, that's his decision. And the others we have these orcs coming, and they kill Boromir, who Boromir had. I'm giving you all kinds of spoilers here. I probably should.
No, but I've seen the movie.
Yeah.
So we all know that.
I've seen it, but I don't remember much anymore.
Well, again, I feel that listening to it is probably one of the best things to do, just to get the sound of it in your ear, and it is just beautifully told. And when you come across parts like this, I think this is wonderful because it gives you background and sort of fills in the holes around
the
it.
blanks that stuff.
Yeah, it's like my dad said. If you were to look at the movie and the book, my dad said you shouldn't try to compare the two because they're both entirely different. They're both. My dad loves both of them. So he said they're both great in one way. He said the movie is great because it's very well done, very true. Yeah, the movies. But my dad says if you want more of the background, the whole universe, you want to get lost in it, it's better to read the book. It's got so much more details, so much more of the the whole stories behind it. Especially if you read Silmarillion too, like my dad did. He loved how they add all this in. But my dad said necessarily some of these things might not be able to fit as well into a movie as it is to read in a book.
Well, the flight to the ford, the way Frodo gets away, I also didn't like as much because the Frodo who's all injured and is in one of his arms, he just can't move. He's told to ride a horse all the way to Rivendell.
Uh-huh.
I think for
But it's a
Glorfindel.
magnificent horse who
Yeah.
knows how to keep
That's
him
true.
aboard, yes.
I was saying, I always thought, why didn't Glorfindel just take him, do what Arwen did, just take him and ride with him, just to make sure?
It might have
That's what I
made sense
thought.
for him to do
Yeah.
so, but then that would have made the horse that much slower.
That's true.
Also,
good point.
Aragorn and Glorfindel were busy.
We're busy. They were they actually. I was just reading many meetings how they also let off the Nazgul as well when the river came in at Knock 3, and then they jumped. Seeing an elf of that of that status, the high comes from a house of princes. He comes in, and then that even rattles them up even more, and kind of pretty much allows Frodo to escape, even though he couldn't really make it all the way in a way. Right?
There are other little contradictions one finds in Tolkien. I mean, things like, for example, we learn that Frodo's looking back over the Ford of Bruinen after the cataract has come through and swept away the 9 riders, and he sees a shining figure on the other side. What is he looking at there? What is
You said that was supposed to be him. I don't just forget his name. Glorfindel. Well, that's what they said in many meetings.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, the interesting thing there was explained that the reason he was able to see him is that he was already fading into that other realm.
Yeah,
one
into
that
the
he
other
goes
realm,
into
the
when
one
he
that
puts the
knows-
ring
yes.
on. And that Glorfindel, being a high elf, lives at the same time in both worlds.
Yeah, so that's why when he comes in, the Nazgul start freaking out. Like they were saying, because seeing someone like that come in, that's not just part of the mortal realm. They can also see him as he is in
Like they saw
the
Frodo.
other realm, like they see Frodo. Or how the Nazgul are only in that realm. Maybe that's what kind of startles them, seeing someone that.
Would be.
Right,
It's interesting, too. This would seem to imply that the ring bearer, when wearing the ring, would not be invisible to them.
No,
and yet
yeah, see,
he's
that's
invisible to all of the woodland elves. And indeed, he wore the ring and passed for invisible when he was in the woodland realm. Of course, this you'd have to read the
Hobbit.
The Hobbit,
No.
yeah.
I
Yep.
think aren't the elves in I forget the name of the forest.
Mirkwood.
Mirkwood.
Mirkwood, yeah.
Okay. Aren't the elves of Mirkwood? They're not as high of a class as the elves
Right.
in Rivendell. So
That
that's
may indeed
probably
be the
why.
distinction.
Because the Glorfindel, for an example, was the high elves with the prince of princes, and so he walked in both worlds at the same time. someone in Mirkwood
This
who
may
is
have
this
been,
royal.
it's the only way to explain the distinction, I think. But it clearly means, of course, that Legolas was a lesser elf, so to speak. He was one of the Sylvan elves, which the Sylvan elves are the elves of the forest elves. What's the word Sylvan mean?
It doesn't mean tree.
To do with trees, right? Because the Sylvan realms are the realms of the trees. Yeah. Excellent. Okay. And you've seen the most recent Hobbit movie, right?
No,
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Haven't?
I
No.
wanted to see
Well-
it, but by the time I went to the theater, they already had it out, but it's not a DVD yet.
Yeah.
Well,
Same
we
thing
had,
with this.
we asked our dad, well, can we go see it? Dad said no, because he wants to see it with us. But dad had already seen it with all of his
Yes.
brothers. So he said, well, the first reason, because it's not good enough for me to go see it again. I wouldn't pay money to go see it again.
Unless
And-
he buys
yeah,
it on DVD.
unless I just buy it on DVD. So he said, just wait
Oh,
until
yeah,
It's
did
not
you-
out on
comes out.
DVD.
No.
yet.
No. Did you enjoy it though?
I think it was interesting and
Yeah,
worth
that-
looking at. They made an effort to include things that were significant in the original book. After all, they couldn't very well leave anything out. There wasn't much book there to work with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the whole battle really is just Bilbo taking
Yeah.
he doesn't even fight much.
No, and
He
he's
just, I
not
think I'll
supposed
just
to.
lay here.
Sit here.
No,
just put
I
slip
think
in
I'll
the
just
ring.
lie here.
All right,
Like,
lie.
yeah.
Okay.
I'll just lie here.
But
yes.
there are some points there. For example, when they're appealing to the elves, the dwarves are appealing for help to the elves, and they're going to die out there. And the Thranduil, the king of the elves, answers, "Yes, they're dwarves. They're going to die this year, 100 years from now. Yes, they're going to die. They're mortal." And he doesn't want to throw away immortal lives to save them. There's a logic behind that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go on to something else here. I'd be happy to go off into other directions. I've given you a lot of things to look at, but I don't want to take time in class, as I never really want to take time in class for watching things, because you folks are so good about doing your homework and doing your watching, which is important. Some of the other teachers here tell me they don't trust their students to do anything unless they have them do it right there in class. Where in class, I like to do that which we can't do on our own. And so you're going to go ahead and watch or listen to Sophie's World, listen to Woodhouse, and listen to Tolkien. But in class, let's do something else. Let's do. I like the idea of doing a little bit of debate, and perhaps we've done some recitation, and that's wonderful. I did some recitation actually also from this chapter last time because I think it was just so wonderful. Let's see if I can find it.
Yeah, and last time we did debates, it was just
I did.
Must be
I
my
sit
brother.
beside the fire and think of people long ago and people who will see a world that I shall never know. It's really beautiful poetry he puts in there. And where can you find that kind of confluence of good writing and occasional verse put in it? Well, Alice in Wonderland's another good example. You'll find
my
a few
sister
of
is
those.
actually reading it to my youngest sister, and she loves it.
This is an interesting point. It's not as though I haven't given you enough, but Alice in Wonderland is really wonderful literature. And the other class is doing it right now, as I mentioned. They needed a recitation of Jabberwocky last week. But it's worthy of consideration. There's another one that I think is worthy of consideration. Well, several.
Through the Looking Glass.
Oh
Oh,
yeah, I've read part through that one. I haven't.
I think Through
Yeah.
Looking Glass, actually, when I say Alice in Wonderland, I generally mean both parts. And I think Through Looking Glass is actually more interesting.
I read a little bit of it through my previous English class. We did the Humpty Dumpty.
Right.
I enjoyed reading that part a lot.
Especially his exegesis of Jabberwocky. He actually goes through and explains a
Yeah.
number of the words in it.
Yeah, explains. Can you explain to me this poem? Like, sure. Then he goes, oh, that's easy. Then he goes, well, I like my birth. I like birthdays better, but that's absurd. How many days are there in a year? 365. And how many days aren't your birthday? 364, of course. He goes, I'd rather see that done on paper. So then it says, and she grabbed her paper and wrote this down, the following: 365 minus 1, 364.
Indeed. And
Yeah.
of course, it was an unbirthday present.
Yeah.
He's talking about his belt or his cravat. And when a person is an egg, it's hard to tell which it is. You can see by the illustration that that's the case. Yeah, it's interesting that interview with Humpty Dumpty. But a number of the other things in there are interesting. His her discussion with the White Queen, who experiences things backwards. First, she screams about things, and then the blood comes, and then she pricks her finger, and then she stops because it's going the other direction.
I don't remember which conversation this was, but when they had the conversation about math, and Alice says, "Oh, I can do math." "Oh, really? You can do math?"
What's 1 and 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 1?
"Oh, well, I lost track of the ones." "Oh, no, then you can't add."
Actually, it was 11, I think, but I only gave you 8. Okay. Can you do that? Can you, for example, listen to?
No, I can't.
13.
13. Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. Excellent.
I can memorize when he hit the patterns like that without.
I didn't know
if
we were
someone
supposed
was
to
to
remember.
say it, but when I hear a sound of it, I think it's a little bit easier.
Right. That's a good thing. If you have an ear that can pick that up, it's a very useful thing, especially in music, to be able to listen to something again. I can hear a clock chime in the background and not think about it, but then go back afterwards and count the chimes. And that's
yeah. Or when I
useful-
play guitar, when you listen to a song that there's a downstroke and an upstroke. A lot of people they would ask, when someone provides a tutorial on how to play the music, they go, "Oh, can you please tell me how do I strum the guitar?" Well, for a lot of guitarists, including me, you just kind of listen to it and you get a feel da 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 da, and you can kind of pick it up from there.
Mhm. Yeah.
How many strums? How many times you go down? How many times you go up?
I haven't tried this for years. I'm not sure it still works. A friend of mine had one of these ancient telephones that didn't have a dial on it. It was the kind where you hold it up and you talk to the.
Really?
You talk to the
operator.
operator and ask to be set through. But he discovered that he was able to dial with that because the ancient system that used the dial used a series of clicks to convey the number, and the number of clicks was the number.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if you've got a good ear, you could take the carriage and do it with your finger and actually dial by clicking on it with your finger, which is an interesting skill to acquire, especially in view of the fact that some telephones had a lock on them to prevent the dial from being used, but you could just as easily dial with the carriage. Oh, we certainly got off the subject there. Okay.
We've gone
We
from
went from poetry to talking about
poetry
using
to
his phone.
phones.
Right.
It's interesting.
Lewis Carroll did a lot of wonderful things,
Yeah.
and I think his book on logic is fascinating. Not just because of the logic, but also because he had a wonderful
math.
whimsy to everything.
I always
In
thought
our-
it was funny because Manny does logic, right? Goes on to write Alice in Wonderland and all these things. They're so
And I mean, you
whimsical,
can kind
yeah.
of see his logic in Alice in Wonderland
Yeah.
when he
And
does it, but it's a very twisted logic. Like when he says, "What's bread divided by a knife?" It's toast.
you see, yeah,
It's logical, but
It
it's
is.
twisted logic.
yeah.
it gets
And,
to
remember that.
I found this very interesting. In our geometry textbook, when I took geometry, they had a bunch of word problems, and one of them was, he said, "Here's a letter found from Lewis Carroll that he wrote to a mathematician." They said, "Here's a problem which I cannot get my head around, and I cannot go to sleep without knowing this." I don't remember the exact problem, but he goes off saying this whole thing. Well, if this is this and that is that and this is this, he goes on this gigantic logic, and this is Lewis Carroll, and he goes, "What is the answer?" And then sends it to the mathematician. That was very interesting, because he's a writer, but yet he was actually very good at logic because
Well,
he actually wrote that.
as I said, he wrote a logic textbook.
Exactly.
He was a mathematics teacher. He knew what he was doing, and he enjoyed playing around with it. One of the devices that he enjoyed very much is the sorite, which is an extended syllogism. Do you know the concept of a syllogism? But a syllogism is just two premises and then a conclusion of some sort of all Greeks dress in white. This person's in white. He must be Greek. That sort of thing. But it isn't. That doesn't, of course, necessarily.
We did those sorites.
Yeah, we did some
right.
Yeah.
But the sorite, it sounds to me like that's what he was talking about when you put together this long string of tenuously connected logic. Yeah. Okay, we've got Arundel was a mariner. I'm not anxious to go through all of that, but can you tell me something about it?
It's it was Bilbo's own, I think.
Right.
Yeah, Bilbo wrote it, and he was
And then
helped by,
Strider helped
Strider
him.
with
Right.
a couple of lines he couldn't
Who
get.
suggested a green stone being added in and said
Yes.
it was of some importance to him for some reason.
Yes, and I don't remember exactly why it was of importance.
They
I don't
never
think it's
mentioned
explained
it. I think
why.
you probably,
He
it's
just
one of
said-
those things you learn
Yeah,
later on.
Bilbo says it was of importance, but I don't know why, so I put it in there.
But who is Arundel?
He was I think he was the first Lord of Rivendell, I think.
Oh, I hate to say it. I can't remember exactly how those family trees worked. They are the ancestors of Elrond,
Yeah.
and therefore
House of
also
Elrond.
one of the ancestors of Aragorn. And so exactly how it worked. There were a number of half-elven people at the time. Beren and Luthien being one specific example of those. And I believe Arundel was their progeny, was he not? Okay.
I don't.
All right.
I don't
At the end of the
trees.
Return of the King, we have all of the family trees. You
Yeah.
can look in there and figure that one out.
Yeah. Maybe we can find it out right now.
Okay. What?
Trees. Let's see if we can find it.
Okay, you're going to find a bunch of hobbits in there. You'll
Yeah,
even
the
find
brandy
family
bucks.
trees for.
But they
Yeah,
only had the
dwarves.
hobbits. My
The
one only
hobbits.
has the hobbits. If they might have. It might have been cut
Oh,
out.
I'm sure it's got to be in there. They can't cut that out.
The
There's only
appendix C
three.
starts here, and then it goes the Baggins of Hobbiton, the Tooks, the Brandy Bucks,
Brandy bucks.
then the Gamgees. Yeah. And that's it. That goes to Appendix D, the Shire Calendar.
Maybe somewhere else in there.
Yeah, it could be that's all the Hobbit appendix,
Right,
and
yeah.
then they have an elf appendix.
Be interesting.
He has whole appendixes on the writings. Very interesting.
Oh yes, he's
Yeah.
got the entire
Yes, he
King
did.
War.
He has the whole language. That'd be great if he
Well,
taught
I
a
didn't know that was
class.
in the appendix, though.
Would it be great if
Like,
how much these fans of the book would enjoy if J.R.R. Tolkien he taught a class on Elven language and they all just spoke in Elven language.
Elvish has been taught. I've gone to a class in Elvish.
Oh, you have?
Yes. There was a mathematician actually at UCLA who was offering this sort of special
Interesting.
seminar in Elvish. And I went to that. His handouts were very useful because they corrected a number of the errors that are in the book itself.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
I'm bringing up our classroom here. One of the things that I have recommended to you, I don't believe I've
Moved it over.
moved it over exactly. This is something I would like to suggest that you play every week if you get a little opportunity, whenever you need to veg a little bit and at the same time prove your homeschooling existence to your parents. Okay, this is.
Just click off. You can just click off in the black area.
Where are you clicking off?
Move up. The black area. Where the black area is. Just click. Yeah.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, now, of course,
Costly.
what we want to do here is jump
Yeah.
ourselves up to
Yeah.
A slightly
challenging
harder
level.
It was like bucket pail. This is actually kind of easy.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Okay, I'm probably going to reduce the
Soon.
Zoom. I have that blown up quite a bit. Okay, where should we start here?
Oh, about
Let's go to level
22.
50.
50. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
let's go to
don't think
50.
we want to start at 50. If we start at 50, we're going to find words that if you know them, you still can't use them because nobody else does.
Level.
Let's try 34.
But we can if you let's I think 31 to 40 is a
Okay.
good usable level. No, it used to stop at 50, and then they added that extra to 10 at the top. Temerity. This is a wonderful word, and it's one that you really ought to know.
Does it mean boldness?
It does indeed. It means excessive boldness. It really means brash and
Boldness
ill-considered
borderlining on
boldness.
stupidity.
I'm sorry?
Boldness borderlining on stupidity.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. A good way to put it.
You know,
Remember that one. Put it in your list.
Temerity. See, this is interesting because I didn't know what temerity even means. But yet something in my mind was like, probably boldness, in the
Yeah.
back. And that's what they were researching in that show I was telling you about. They were saying how they made their own little fake language, and they asked these people, this is some Indian language from back then. What do you think this word means?
Uh-huh.
And then literally, I think like 98% of people all said the same thing, like chocolate means chocolate, and they all said correct. So it's very interesting how they're saying how your brain can work, even though you don't even know what it is. It just sounds,
Right.
If you were to say the word temerity, you can cut it. You have to say it. So you say it out loud, though.
Temerity is so close to timorous, which means almost the opposite. So it can be a dangerous thing to assume that.
Yeah.
But there's an awful lot that one can guess about, especially when it comes to parts of speech, and simply take it and stick it in a context.
Yeah, if you
that-
put it in a sentence, then it becomes a lot easier to figure out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, you all know this one, right?
That one means to set forth, right?
Yeah. To propound, to
It's very.
posit, for example.
Does that mean to branch off?
Almost certainly.
Yeah. Like kind of like diverse. Diversity.
Okay, you know that one.
Yeah, that
From
was
your-
the short.
from your computer experience. Okay,
Oh, I know this one. I think it's in my vocabulary journal.
well, this is a verb. The thing is, you're much more familiar with the noun that's drawn from it, or it's a noun
travel.
or an adjective.
Travel. It's travel.
Right.
Isn't it?
Oh
Itinerary.
yeah, that's
Okay.
right. Itinerary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Itinerary,
Yes, that's the
or
one.
I was
I got
getting
itinerary.
there, itinerary, and I was trying to figure it out.
right, or an itinerant,
Yeah.
a person who wanders from place to place.
You know what I found very interesting?
Wooden nymph.
Very
Yep.
good.
Wooden nymph. Yeah.
Learned that from all my readings.
I learned that from Percy Jackson.
Yeah.
Dance.
Right. You
Yeah.
can't imagine somebody wearing one of those. Okay.
Dejection.
Wavering.
Waffling, indecision.
Mhm.
Okay.
Oh, I thought it was a euphemy for what that's.
Yeah, well, you can see the funny.
Pleasing
in-
sound.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I just looked at the phony.
Well,
the
you've
phone.
got cacophony,
Yeah.
for example.
Yeah.
It's the same.
Symphony.
Introductory.
Right.
A preface.
As in a
Uh-huh.
preface, yeah.
Or preface.
I don't think it registered the clip.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fashion designing.
I think so.
Yeah.
That's
For sure. Yeah.
I think
very,
my mom
very
has
sort
a-
of French.
Smelly.
Yep. Redolent, if you'd like. But in this case, malodorous is specifically an unpleasant redolence.
Mhm.
Okay.
kind of like a The opposite of an aroma.
Does it mean extra?
An excessive and unpleasant aroma.
Does it mean extra?
I think it would have to be.
Yes.
To show someone deference.
Respectful.
Yeah.
Yes.
Respectful.
Okay, you know this one.
Globe.
It's very well. Glove is the word you're
Oh.
looking for. This is more dialect than it is.
Nonsense. Yeah.
And a lot of the words they put in here, I seem to have difficulty clicking on things.
I think it's because it's probably lagging. This website's lagging a lot, so
That
it's
means
not
melting?
registering the clicks.
It certainly looks as though
Yeah.
it should be melting. A lot of the words they have here are not really terribly useful words. They're simply dialectic. I
Yeah.
mean,
Things
common
that-
word in Scottish.
Yeah.
You know, that sort of thing.
Unspoiled.
No, I
Appropriate.
think of the verb assuage.
Soothing.
To assuage an
Appropriate.
unpleasant symptom would be to reduce
Soothe.
it, to make it more acceptable.
Yeah.
And indeed, I think soothing has got to be it. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. You could tell from his deportment that he'd been well brought up.
Behavior.
His behavior, yeah.
Context makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
That one.
Sensitive means
Unhurried.
No.
It's a commensurate.
No, it's not actually.
Unhurried?
Commensurate would be of equal
It should be
quantity.
unhurried,
Like someone's tentative
It's
care.
not-
Yeah.
Well, no, it isn't actually unhurried. It's provisional. Something that's temporary, and we're going to make an instant, a temporary judgment on something. And so for provisional purposes, we will do that. Pestiferous, you can guess at what that one's going to be.
Stunted.
Yeah, it's got to be something very negative.
Yeah.
Oh, I was
Because,
thinking of you're pesterous.
well, pest, of course, is
Yeah.
something unpleasant. It comes from the German. Pest is the plague, and so I think clearly that's where it came from there.
Yeah.
Persuasive.
Soothing.
It shouldn't have given me that again if I got it right. Did I get it wrong?
No,
No,
you
it's
got
like
it right.
10 out of 10.
Huh.
And if it gets it wrong, I'm pretty sure it'll tell you.
Yeah, you see, that's what I like about this program. Is that
Layman.
very good. If you get something wrong, it saves it and gives it back to you, which is an ideal way for it to do that.
So,
Um,
No,
macro.
that's
Macabre is the
Yeah.
word you're looking for, and that would mean something evil and
well, staunch. The way I learned
perhaps
it
bloody.
was to, it was to stop bleeding. You would say to staunch the wound. That's the way I learned it. So I guess contend, but I don't know.
No, I think we're going to have to go with loyal.
Oh, that's right.
Carmine.
Red.
Okay, tessellated. This is really a much more complex meaning than the one they've given you.
Isn't it?
checkered.
It is checkered,
yes.
and a
Like a
checkerboard is
tessellation.
indeed a tessellation,
Yeah, like
but
a
it's as
tessellation.
simple as possible tessellation. A tessellation would be a repetitious sequence
Yeah.
of any shape, some of which can be very complex.
Yeah,
and
like
yet fit into
Euler's.
each other.
Euler, I think. Or was it not Euler? It was some famous.
I think his name started with an M.
Yeah, I don't remember the guy's name, but he was famous for doing that. He would morph these images using patterns into something.
I think you're thinking of Escher.
Escher,
that's
there you go.
Escher.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
like, it's a tessellation, right?
I'm jumping through some easy stuff here for you. You all know about a tarantella, right? Right? Okay.
No, I can't
Tarantella,
do
it actually is named after a tarantula. It's a vigorous dance which, in theory, the dancing of will allow you to sweat the poison out from a tarantula bite. I think that's originally the where it came from, but it's appeared in a number of places. It's used in Peter Pan, by the way, which is another piece of literature I thought I might recommend to you because it is beautifully written. Stay away from Disney, and it's beautifully written. Another one that I think is a good example is The Wind in the Willows. Again, stay away
that's
from
right.
Disney.
That one was good. I've read the book.
Good for you.
The Willows?
The Wind
Yeah,
in the
I've read
Willows.
it quite a few
Have you
times.
not read it?
No. Who's that by?
It's by Kenneth Grahame.
No.
And well, let me tell you a little bit about it. We'll think about. Let's do a little bit of
Inviolable. Yeah.
yeah. Let's do a little bit of multitasking here while we talk about the Wind in the Willows.
Is it outskirts?
Tell you the truth, I'm not sure this
Upright
one.
Stone Monument, I think. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know either. But I got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Portmanteau, you do know what that is. If you read anything by
I've heard it. It's
if you read Humpty Dumpty.
So does that mean?
Okay, actually, this is a different meaning of the word than the one he uses, but it's the same word.
Is it refutation?
No, it's a suitcase.
Oh.
But or portmanteau is also a conflation of two different words stuck together. For example, 'twas brillig and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. Okay, we've got a number of portmanteaus popping up there. Oh, mimsy, where the bar goes. What is mimsy? Well, it's a combination of the words flimsy and miserable. Okay, so that's a portmanteau of two words stuck together. Poplatch. This is an Indian tradition, an American, Native American tradition.
A feast?
It is a feast.
Mannequin.
Okay. I guess we've
small
got to go with
person,
a
I
small
guess.
person, yeah.
doesn't have to be small though.
Yeah.
It
It's not
does because it
necessarily
comes,
big.
it's an Anglicism of a German word. And the kin on the end of it is a diminutive ending, as in, for example, Rumpelstiltskin. The original was Rumpelstiltskin, I think. And the chen is a German diminutive, and when translated, it becomes kin. So I think that's definitely what we've got there. Okay. It could also be a sort of battle, but certainly confusion. Bellicose.
Is it warlike?
It is indeed warlike. Anything starting with BEL, as in Bellatrix, for example, is something combative.
I remember you using it. I think it was in your
Belligerent.
Belligerent, yeah.
Yeah.
Defray.
No,
To
lubricate.
I don't
No.
indicate in advance.
Lubricate. Lubricious is a wonderful and interesting word that connects to lubricate, but no, it's actually to pay, as in to pay something off, to defray expenses.
Does that mean
Byzantine.
complex?
I think that's the sense in which it's come to mean.
Well, I'm thinking of like the
Because,
Byzantine
of course-
Empire. It's
Yeah,
like, why would they
that's what I
name
was
themselves
thinking.
out all those except complex? They're saying
Exactly.
Sounds like a plant sponge or
It
a
is.
Yeah.
person.
I've heard that, and I think it's in
Yeah.
Charlie and Loof that the
Okay,
What do you call it?
there's
That's
another
the
word
word.
that you're probably more familiar with. Tell me what culpable means. Tell me what mea culpa means.
my fault.
Right. Okay. Do you see a fault up here anywhere?
If you blame.
Blame.
Exactly.
In-
Exactly.
In my
So
fault, not my fault.
exculpate would be to
Confess, kind
Accept fault.
to confess to
of. Kind of.
what's the word I'm looking for, to get rid of fault, essentially,
Take the blame.
to remove the blame from would
Yeah.
be exculpate. So inculpate.
would be to
Actually,
play.
I didn't know any of the
Give it
roots,
away.
but I knew that because I know some Spanish. I know that culpa is fault.
Mhm.
So it's I was
Yeah, I know
Well,
Spanish, so that's why that's how I
That's
knew
that's
culpa.
interesting. I thought you might all know it from the mass. I mean, it's Latin is where it comes from. Okay, salient.
we don't go to Latin masses, so
Ah, you ought to know them anyway. You've never sung one?
no one sings the Latin except for this one church we go to, which is very traditional. They will have songs in Latin.
Well, the only reason I say that is there is so much wonderful music that has been
Oh yeah.
written for the
Gregorian
Latin
chant.
Mass.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
Gregorian
I
chant.
agree. It's always the best.
But no
way
one
to,
uses
but no
it.
one does it
Yeah,
anymore.
and nowadays in
Isn't
church,
that
they just-
dreadful?
yeah, they just
It is.
play. They have just a bunch of people come and they'll just play guitar and they'll sing. But we all agree that it sounds so much better when they sing in Latin. The Gregorian chant, it's a lot nicer. Yeah, but they don't do that anymore. I'm gonna guess.
Apologetic.
No,
It's inevitable.
no. We haven't got a whole lot left. There's only one
Oh,
left now.
Just keep guessing until you get the right one. We'll get there eventually.
Something that sticks out and is obvious.
Oh,
Terpsichorean. Okay, you've got to know this one.
Spots.
Nope.
Does it mean
Dancer.
Dancer.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah,
Because
who else did dancer?
terpsichore was when we read about the muses, the 9 muses. Terpsichore was the muse of dance. Does anybody remember the Monty Python, the cheese shop sketch?
Oh, I remember. I
You
didn't.
remember it? Did you? You've
I
seen
did.
it,
I
right?
never seen it. No.
I'm a
But
fan of all forms of the Terpsichorean muse, he says. Anyway, you read
The
your
only Monty Python I saw was the one with the "'Tis only a flesh wound." Yeah, have you ever seen that one?
Which one?
The one where King's trying to go past in the night, doesn't let him pass, and then so they
King Arthur.
it's King Arthur. So they all start fighting, and then he cuts off the leg or cuts off the arm, and the
Okay,
knight
the
goes,
Black Knight.
"I beat you," and he goes-
Not one of the best Monty Python skits, I don't think. Okay, fool's cap, ancient word.
An ill-tempered
Ill-tempered
person.
yeah.
Interesting. No, writing paper.
Ah,
So I look a fool and I think a person, an ill-tempered
Well,
person.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fool.
well, that it fooled you.
We all
What
say.
is a whelk?
A black and blue bruise.
Nope. That's close though.
It sounds
That's
like
a
a welt.
wheel. WEAL would be a black and blue bruise.
A large snail.
It is indeed a large snail.
Ah.
Cerement.
Is it a shroud?
I think so. Yeah. Tenuity.
slenderness.
Yes. Think about tenuous. They often give you a variant of a word which is less common than another one, and see if you can recognize the other ones. Let's see where we are, by the way, in our level. We're already up to
45.
level 45, and I don't think we missed any, have we?
No.
don't think so.
But the problem is when we get up to level 45, they become less and less useful.
And they become more just random words.
Random
Well,
words.
not necessarily random. You will find these words used, but you'll find them used
In a very specialized.
up in the specialized stratosphere
Uh-huh.
of educational works.
Where most people don't go.
Okay, well, I think we know what that one is.
That's the
maybe-
pilgrimage.
Pilgrimage.
Very
yeah.
good.
That's-
Pilgrimage to Mecca.
7th grade history.
Okay.
it's all-
Wow.
prayers.
I was gonna say 100 weight.
I'm guessing there, but
Oh,
I'm
you're right.
afraid I am guessing.
Because I was using some more Latin words. I have no idea.
Me,
This might be
see-
inventor. I think inventor.
I'm
think
guessing it
outskirts. I don't know.
outskirts, but I
I'll
don't
say
think I'm right.
Amos Look.
I'm wrong. I'm wrong.
Oh, who's
Very
in
good.
better?
Oh, no.
Okay, so we started slithering down again. Sword.
That's a.
A turf.
It is
Yeah.
turf. Excellent. Okay. Fattuccini. It sounds so much
It
like
sounds
some
like a
sort
kind
of.
of pasta.
It does sound
Yeah.
like pasta. It does indeed.
One of those weird
the-
shaped pastas.
A raging
Uh,
fire.
I have no idea.
Puppet.
This one.
My guess is going to be puppets.
Yeah, I'm thinking puppet.
Like Phantom.
Yeah.
Touchstone.
Stone.
A bell tower.
I would go for a Criterion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Inventor.
This one's adventure,
Inventor.
yeah.
Yeah, because it
It
got
came
it
back.
came back.
Yeah, that's a repeat. Trist. No, it isn't.
Does it mean bitter?
Sad.
Sad. Yeah,
Sad.
sad. Should be sad.
Very good. Let's try it. Oh, we're off into a world of
Isn't
obscurity
it,
here,
flawed?
I'm afraid.
This one, I think we're more guessing.
Isn't
than
it
actually-
flawed?
Yeah.
No, I think lyrical is a type
It makes
of
sense once one has gone from 30 up to 45 without missing any to drop back down with 30 and do it again.
Yeah.
Isn't it a flog?
Oh my goodness, we're going over.
I'll time again.
I'm
I
pretty
don't
sure.
think
Maybe
so.
reason.
Let's try it. You're absolutely
Oh,
right.
it was.
Excellent. Artolian. No idea.
Just a songbird.
No.
So, yeah, it's like that.
Artolian.
It might be a weak.
Or garden pest. Oh,
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
abilitate.
It sounded like a
needs
bird.
To
Well,
disperse
to grow.
or grow. Probably grow.
grow.
You think
It's like a
so?
habitat. To grow.
Let's try close.
A little bit of grow. Yeah.
It is close.
Aptitude. It sounds like misery.
Talented.
Oh, it might be talented. No, it's business. Now we're getting really bad.
Yeah.
We're at 48 now.
Uh,
And we wanted to start at 50.
Yeah, I 50 is not a good place to start unless you're really intending to go down.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Let's decide what we need for next week, if anything. What did I promise that I was going to post up there, and I've forgotten what it was now. Gabriel.
I only got through the first 40 minutes of the
It was
classroom.
I think a brief
Brief History of
History
Time.
of Time.
Thank you. I'll put that one up because it's very good, and he's a wonderful writer. Unfortunately, it's not read by the author, or perhaps fortunately. But it's a really nice book, and
Okay.
he's written a number of others.
what about
that are
Lord of the
very-
Rings?
Yeah.
Okay, Lord of the Rings. Where do we go from here?
What about
Want to go to
because we
the
have a lot to do. What if we go to
mirror.
The Mirror of Galadriel.
Yeah.
read up
That's
to it?
It's quite a bit to go
What about
through.
how about read through
This
the
isn't
Bridge
too
of
bad.
Khazad-dûm?
The Bridge of Khazad-dûm. Okay,
Oh,
let's
okay,
do
so
that. So the
and-
Bridge
okay.
of Khazad-dûm.
Right.
And then, of course, the next one I believe is Lothlorien, and then
Yes.
follows
Yes, the Mirror of Galadriel.
So we'll end at Lothlorien.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, does that sound good?
And
Yeah.
out
And
there.
think of parts in there that, while you're reading
Okay.
it, think of parts that you would like to bring in and share with the rest of us. And everybody's going to have some little something or other to present in the way of a persuasive essay, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I already wrote one.
Yeah.
I think I.
Yeah, Kyle wrote one. I haven't written one yet, but I'm gathering more research on it to see.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna start writing that. I don't know which one I'll decide whether it's medical or should we all have the vaccinations. I'll decide. I'll figure it out.
Sounds good. And if you're still looking for subject matter, there are just so many lists online. I can go out and get one
Yeah.
if you prefer. There are several in the other classroom.
No, I want to do one of those shows. I just don't know which one. Maybe I'll do them.
Bye,
both.
Mr. Tisdale. All right.
Bye-bye. Have a good week.
You too.
Okay, let's wind up our broadcast of College Prep English for Homeschoolers for this week.